Welcome to the next episode of Rebelle Revealed. We're going to change gears a little bit, and what I'm going to do for the coming episodes is I'm going to take you through an artwork step by step, setting it up, drawing it, painting it, finishing it, and showing you my workflow and how I would set up my canvas, how I would use my brushes, how I will use certain features, so that you get an idea how these features are used. Instead of just a technical talk and me showing it, I'm just going to demonstrate it in, let's say, a live session. So you're welcome to go along with me. The reference photo is linked below, so you can just download it. And then I'm just going to show you how to bring it in Rebelle and how to start drawing, painting, coloring and everything. All right, let's start. So I've started up Rebelle already. And I'm going to pick an A4. If you need a letter size or some different size, fine with me. I'm going to leave this on 300 dpi. The canvas, I really don't matter what kind of canvas is. I would like a hot pressed canvas though. But I'm not sure if you have hot pressed canvases. Let's check. With the default ones, there is a hot pressed, HPO1 hot pressed. So I'm going to pick that one. The color, I'm going to set it in its default color. I'm going to say OK. And I'm going to start this, so an A4 at 300 dpi. And there we go. Now, the first thing I'm going to do, I'm going to give this a name. I'm going to save this in my Rebelle folder. And I'm going to call this Rebelle Revealed House. We're going to paint a house, so I'm going to call it like that. And I'm going to spell house a little bit better than that. And there you go. Now it's got a name. So that's the first action I'm going to take. Now, Rebelle should save automatically if I forget, but it's better to be safe than sorry. Now I'm going to show you a few ways to use a reference. So the first thing we're going to do is get that reference. For that, I'm going to press Window. I'm going to select Reference Images. Then this box comes, and yours might be somewhere else, but you can move these boxes around and press on the square with the arrow and find wherever you have stored that artwork. I know I've stored it in the Rebelle folder, textures, and there should be that house. And there it is. And now if I press on it, it should come up as a reference. I can make this smaller, move this where it's not in the way. And here's my reference image. Let's make that slightly larger so that you can have a good look at it. So this is the reference image we're going to use. Now, don't worry, I'm not going to say that again. Begin. Now, don't worry, we're not going to paint and draw this completely accurate and realistic, but just as a nice illustration. Now, the first thing I could do now, if I know how to draw and paint, I basically could start drawing here. And for drawing, I would pick, to start with, a pencil. And I like to draw with an HB or a 2 pencil. And for the color, I'm going to pick that default color set. See if I can find that. There you go, the default color set. I'm just going to pick a gray. I'm not going to pick a black, I'm going to pick a gray. And now I can start drawing however I like. It's very light. So I might want to change the size. Let's check. 7. Yeah, that is nice enough. Now let me resize the reference a little bit. There you go. And now I could start drawing. Now the chances that if I get everything in the right place is of course going to be tricky. So Rebelle gives us a few options to make sure we're getting everything where it needs to be. Now the first option we do have, I'm going to switch my mouse, is this little line here. We could get some guides. You could actually switch that on and draw some guides. So if I draw a guideline here, on my paper there should be a guideline too. I'm going to move this away, and there's the guideline. And for the next line, I might get a guideline here, and there's a guideline there. And of course, nicely on the bottom, I would draw a guideline Oh, I'm now moving the guideline. You can do that too, but I don't want that. I want to have a guideline on the bottom around there. And for the roof. And so you could bring in all these guidelines. Now let me show you the door then too. Just make sure you're not on another guideline. And there you go. Now I've got these guidelines, and what I could do now, I could start drawing my house, and I know I'm gonna move the reference for a second. And I could start my rough sketch, or normally I would of course leave the reference inside, but then you're not seeing anything anymore. So let's make sure we're getting that. And then the door would be around here. There you go. So now I get a rough sketch of the house. Now those guys are pretty much in the way. So I'm bringing back my mouse. And I'm gonna hide these references, and there you go. Now you can see the house, which I've started to draw. That would be one way to start drawing. Now there's another way to do this, or there's actually a few other ways to do this in Rebelle, so let's show you a different way. Now I've done my lines a little bit loose hand, really quick, but there's some help for that to get nice straight lines. And the first help you could get is if you have your pencil, there's a little box here and line smoothing. You could put on line smoothing. Mine is now off, but if you use line smoothing, you just get nicer, straighter lines. So we could put it on. Now it's going to correct, and as you can see, it's going to do a nice straight line. Now let me do this one, and let me zoom in so that you can really see it, and you can see probably the difference between the two. This is my line, and that is the smoothed line. That will always be nice and straight. So you could put on that help. Now I'm not using that, but if you need help with your lines, line smoothing is a great way to help you. And you can even have the pressure smoothing and the sensitivity. You can all set that in motion. Now the other thing you have is go to view, and you can show a grid, so that would help you to manage this. Now this is a huge grid, but then I could straighten my lines and go by the grid. If you have the grid, you can change the grid by going to preferences, here grids and guides, and change how many you want, what you want. You can change the color, the width, everything on the guides, how you would like them to be. So here's vertical free and horizontal free. Let's say I would prefer 6 of them. That's even not much, but 6. Yes, please. Then now I've got 6 of them. You can even snap to them if you like that. Then you get nice straight lines. You can set that up the way you want. Let's hide that again for now. You can also use rulers. Therefore you go to edit, and you're going to say ruler tool. Then you get this. And this ruler tool you can move around wherever you like, and as you can see, you get nice straight lines. So if I would do that top line again, I'm going to clear my canvas and pretend I'm starting over again. So if I would do that top line, I get a nice straight line. As you probably can see, I want to have a slightly thicker pencil. There you go. And I can move it with these. I can make it longer, shorter, and rotate it. And I know it's probably not getting in the right position, but I think you get the idea, and so on and so on. And that's the way you can set it up too. And that way you can draw a lot more accurate than if you do it freehand. But there's another way. There's another way, And I'm going to hide the reference for now. I'm going to clear my canvas once again. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to import this image. We'll say File, Import Image, and I'm going to bring that in as a layer. So I'm going to find that image. There it is. And that should be, and bring it in as a layer. I think the size is fine. We're missing a little bit on the sides, but that's okay. I could move it over slightly to the side and leave this open. Say okay. Now this will be my reference image. And what I'm going to do with this, I'm going to move this to the bottom. I'm going to change the transparency. And now if you do not know how to draw it all, or you want to speed something up, you could now use this as a reference and preferably lock it. I would lock it, press the lock button, so now I can't draw on it per accident. And now on the layer on top, I'm going to just do the door quickly. I could start drawing in this way. And this way, if you have a decent photograph, you're going to get everything in the spot you want. Now, some artists may consider this to be cheating, and I'll leave this up to you which method you're going to choose to draw this house. So whether you want to cheat, whether you want to do it like this, it's totally fine with me. If I now hide my reference, there you go. You see that I have the door already ready. Oh, now the door is gone too. And this way you could do it too. Now I know my drawing abilities, but I have no clue who's sitting on the other side watching this and what your drawing abilities are. You may not even be able to draw it all, and you just at some basic stages and you want to learn how to draw. So I leave whatever method you pick to draw up to you. You can use a grid, you can use the ruler, you can use the reference, you can do it as the last method. But one thing I still need to show you, you can speed up your work a little bit. And that is what we're going to talk about as the last thing in this video. All right, the last thing I want to show you before we're going to draw all of this is, now if I'm going to look at this house, you probably will notice that there's at least 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 windows the same, and this is slightly smaller and slightly smaller. Now, normally, if you have a pen and paper, you need to draw everything, but these are all pretty much the same. So what we can do is we can just pick one of them, draw one of them, and I'm going to show you that quickly. So let's say I'm going to pick this window. I'm going to make sure it's on its own layer. For that, you're going to hit this little, under the layers, you hit this plus. Oh, and when drawing, by the way, you could pause the engine, because the engine doesn't need to run all the time, because it's just graphite. It's not going to move anywhere. That just saves some computing power, and you get this nice pause button. So what I'm going to do on the new layer, I should get a new layer. I'm going to now draw this window, and yes, I realize I'm not going to do this quite accurately at all, but this is just for the idea, so that you get the idea. So I'm just going to do basically some of those main parts, because the thing is, I'm quite far away from my display. I can't hang over it like normally I would put it on an angle, bring it closer to me, but that wouldn't work too well for a video, so you wouldn't see what's happening. I would see everything, but you basically would see the back of my head, and I'm sure you don't want to watch the back of my head on a video. You just want to see what's happening. So this is not going to be really accurate, but this is just for the idea. So let's say I've got my window here. And it's done. I'm going to hide the sketch for now. And notice that my window is actually quite sloppy. There you go. But this will do for the example. All right. There we go. What I'm going to do is now I'm going to bring my whole drawing up, and I'm going to do that by pressing navigator and pressing this box there. It brings everything up. Now this part here, what I can do, I can simply copy this to the other parts. And what I'm going to do is, there's a little button here, a plus on a second layer, 2 layers on top of each other with a plus. If I'm going to hit that, it's going to go for a copy. And now I need to move this, and I'm going to say transform, and make sure it's on the first one, not on the warp, but on the move, the transform. And I can just move my pen inside, and now I can move it wherever I like it to be. And I would definitely normally zoom in for this and say okay. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to copy that copy again. There you go. And I'm going to do exactly the same, obviously, and move it to the next one. And since they're pretty much the same, we should be okay. I think I made a little bit of a mess of my window, but okay. Now, the last thing I'm going to show you, you get the idea that this window here is different. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to copy it again. I'm going to move that copy. And what I'm going to do, you see all these little arrows there, sorry, all these little dots there, the handles. And with these, you can just resize anything the way you like. So I'm going to zoom in for this. I'm going to move here. What I'm going to do with my original, I'm actually going to move it very faint so that you can see it really well. And I'm going to get this one. And what I could do now is just move it until it actually pretty much, well, it should fit already. This is a bit too much. Let's see if we can get it fitting. And there we go. And we're going to say okay. If it will react to me, right. Hide this, bring up the whole sketch, and now see how this speeds up the work. We've got 4 windows already, and that is the way to speed up drawings. And that is all I wanted to show you in this episode of Rebelle Revealed. Now what I'm going to do next is I'm going to draw this drawing, and just in a minute you will see that drawing appear on the screen, because that's a nice thing about recording something, I can edit things in. Now as you can see from the drawing I created, I haven't drawn every detail there is. I just gave an impression of the bricks, certain details, everything I want to be on that drawing, and that's the choice, of course, I can make. Now I encourage you to make the choices you want to make. If you want to do all the bricks, every little detail on this house, everything, please go ahead, do so. So if you want to follow me along in the next episode of Rebelle Revealed, then I would say draw this drawing. And once this drawing is done, you can just go along with me once the next episode is revealed. Or if you're watching this in, I don't know, a number of weeks or in the future somewhere, then you can already go to the next one, of course, already. So in the next episode, we're going to ink this. I'm going to show you how I'm going to go through that process of inking. But now I'm going to draw, even though you've seen the drawing already, I don't have seen it yet. I got to make it, so I'm going to create it now.